Very early in the war, after Dunkirk and Americans came in and so on, bombing of Germany started by the RAF. It was discovered that 80% of the Royal Air Force's bombs were not hitting the target. So a crazy Australian called Don Bennett, who was an Air Vice Marshal, decided that the thing to do is to form an elite force. Part of the RAF, it was known as the Pathfinder Force, would find the target. And then they would shoot up flares of different colors, different days, and the bombers coming behind would bomb our flares. We're told, if you cannot drop it bang on time, within 10 seconds either way, you bring them back. Because the first flare that goes up, the Germans know that that is marking a target, so they will put another flare over an open field 50 miles away. So the bombers wouldn't know which one of them, So you have to be on time within 10 seconds. And that changed the whole complexion of the bombing war. The Pathfinders found the target.
To understand this moment in time, you need to take a wider view of history.
I can't say that I have family to leave behind necessarily. My mother died when I was 13. And not too long after that, my father abandoned all of me. 9 of us. My entire life seemed to change.
What's your name? Kofi Mensah. Kofi Mensah? Yeah, yourself? Ulric Cross.
The project started with some interviews that we had done with Ulric Cross, who I knew personally and socially from before. We were doing a documentary on Sir Ellis Clark. Ulric was one of his good friends.
Originally it was Desmond Allen, the lawyer, and Marina Salandi Brown, who were trying to steer it, and they had the veteran filmmaker Horace Ove was going to direct. However, his health fell and he wasn't able to. He asked me to film some stuff for him. I filmed Ulric Cross's 90th birthday at the President's House. I filmed his receiving sort of Hall of Heroes, the St. Mary's College honors of him, and then I did a few interviews with him also while he was still alive. But later on, Francis Am took up the project, and all that interviews and all that stuff was used as research background.
Hero is significant because it allowed me to explore a reality which is very close to who I am. So the specifics of who we are, how we move, how we talk, how we dance, what we eat, the actual texture of our lives, our Creolized Trinidadian lives that was so precious to reproduce in Hero.
The film in itself has enlightened the world as to the role and the participation of Trinidadians in particular and West Indians in general.
It's a story of overcoming challenge. It's a story of one man making a difference. It's a story of regional unity. And it's a story that tells us that anything is possible if we put our minds to it.
Fellas like Ulric Cross, who served outside on the European front, they responded to the call of the king. Ulric Cross was a daredevil when it came to his job as an observer navigator in the Pathfinder Squadron, flying in mosquitoes.
Flying officer Ulric Cross to speak for West Indians.
Well, it's a job to know where to start.
As a matter of fact, very few people are aware that Caribbean people contributed greatly to the Allied forces and to their successes during World War II.
growing up in a small place like Trinidad and Tobago and thinking of ourselves as coming from a small island could have an impact on the world stage and be part of very important global conversations around colonialism, independence, freedom.
Building a movement is not easy, Mr. Cross.
I call them a Pan-Africanist revolutionary.
It is about Pan-Africanism, but it's about just the levels at which our existence between the Caribbean and Africa was interconnected.
What we are beginning to do is we are bringing all the descendants of Africans together with a common purpose and a common goal. And with that groundswell of ideas and intention, then we begin to change.
Put simply, it was to challenge colonialism, challenge racism, imperialism, capitalism.
We care about the same things. We're moving in the right direction.
We as a people should not be deprived of equal justice because of the color of our skin.
If you don't know all the stories, then you don't know how to fit yourself into the total collective. And you will not understand really the complete picture, the sophisticated nature of who we are and our contribution.
If we are telling our own story and we tell it from our own perspective and from what that experience did for us, then we are able to touch those who come after us in a different way. Marcus Garvey says, Africa for Africans at home and abroad. And essentially, that's what Pan-Africanism is about. It's really about creating those links of solidarity between Africans on the continent and Africans in the diaspora, understanding that we are one people.
We have so many untold stories of heroes, ordinary people in our lives, past and present, who can inspire a generation. People like Ulric Cross, for example. I think it's important that we need to let our people know that. And it's not just persons from Trinidad and Tobago, for example, who would be inspired by stories like this. It's persons all over the world, And when we travel with this film, we see the impact because it speaks to migration, it speaks to coming of age, it speaks to war hero, it speaks to Pan-Africanism, it speaks to belonging. And we have those stories. For years, we've been watching other people tell their stories, and we have ours as well.
Revolutions are not just driven by, the will to wage open war, but it's also driven by the ability to establish a legal framework for what is coming after, which is what Ulric and people like himself were really instrumental in.
For someone to come from Trinidad and Tobago, for someone to come from the Caribbean and then rise to be the most decorated person in the Royal Armed Forces at that time, most decorated West Indian, it really is a constant reminder that we have within us everything that we need to be successful, and that Trinidad and Tobago is as good a place as any for greatness to be born.
The West Indies going to live.
You're a liar!
The gold, the diamonds, equal justice.
It was a meeting of minds. The ideas that inspired us. It can be done.
Films is a perfect way to document and to archive our stories. In developing a character, you also want to make sure that the character is built in such a way that it's relatable.
Filmmaking as a form of creative expression is also important for us to capture, document, express who we are as a people, and document any significant milestone at that point in time.
This story is an incredible story, which few people know. Francis Ann had done a lot of research, and more and more incredible facts were coming up as she did the research. And so making the script was like a jaw-dropping opportunity to bring a story to the Caribbean and to Trinidad and Tobago about not only our independence and the independence of the Caribbean, but also, of course, for Ghana, the first African country to become independent.
At last, Ghana, your beloved country, is free forever!
Independence came to over a dozen states peaceably. But in the Belgian Congo, freedom was followed by rioting and army mutiny.
Mr. Bumbutu, things seem to be a bit unstable.
This is my country, the Republic of Congo.
I've known Frances Ann for a long time, and I think it was a sort of organic thing where she asked me to start to coach the main actor, Nikolai Salcedo, just because I actually also knew Ulric Cross, so that it might have made sense. I think she thought that I should sort of share with him some of the history that I would know about how Ulric would have moved or reacted to something, because remember, it's an acting job.
Yes, sir. Oh, I will go anywhere with you, sir. You demand too much. You demand too much from me. I am your wife. You ask me, I am your equal.
Don't have to ask you nicely.
Yes, you do have to ask me.
I don't have to ask you nicely.
I'm not coming.
Hero really opened up so many doors for me. And I'm so grateful to the film and to Frances Ann for choosing me for the role of Ulric.
When I met with Frances and she just outlined the story to me and gave me some actual clips of Anne that I think we see in the film. So Anne was my reference for playing the younger Anne. I suppose the challenge was, I met the real life Anne at the age of 70s, 80s, and I was portraying her in her 20s and 30s. So that's a challenge, because you have someone that you're meeting with 50 years plus experience from her younger self.
It's a complex bag of emotions working on a project. It's fun, and it is exciting, making believe and dressing to camera. But it's also a lot of hard work, long hours, and a lot of preparation. From finding the locations to deciding where exactly the camera is going to be, and then dressing to camera to make sure you don't see anything that's too modern, that's going to throw off the look of this in particular, like a period piece like this.
The film and the nature of it encourages even Trinidad and Tobago citizens to understand what we have contributed to the world, how we have contributed to the world, and what more we can do. To me, he's a visionary because he saw how the world should be and he made the steps to make it happen.
I really found it astounding how, to see these pieces of a puzzle being brought together. You give those who are now coming up something to look at and be like, they look like me, and they've done this and they've reached this far.
What is one lesson you think you really learned from him personally?
Oh, enjoy life to the fullest. I mean, that was his mantra. This guy was playing tennis at 91 and walking from Port of Spain to Tranquility Tennis Court. He was a great lover of life and people. I think he made the country proud.
Free forever!
Ever since you asked me that question, my entire life seemed to change.